Welcome to the dungeon with Harlan and Andrew.
All right, hello, we are here. We are unmuted. We are rolling with a late start today for the dungeon, but it's happening. And we have two sort of guests today. This is the dungeon where we talk about all things TTRPG, and it's usually with me, Harlan Kelly, and Andrew Orvall. But subbing in, we have another member of this stream, the past guest, and whose face you don't usually get to see on Mondays, but is with us, Jason Wardell. Everybody, thanks for being with us, Jason.
Hi, hello. Hey, thank you for inviting me to guest host.
Yeah, we're happy. We're happy to have you here. And we also, as our guest today, our true guest, sorry, Jason, is Thomas Cook, the DM and player on Quests and Chaos, the streaming channel. Hi, Thomas. Thanks for being with us today as well.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we talked a little bit about this before, but we ask all guests on the show, and we've already heard Jason's answer, so we don't need to hear that today.
Yeah,
but,
no one cares. Yeah.
Well, they do care. You can just go watch it on our YouTube channel. But how did you get into tabletop role-playing games?
This is so way back in the 80s. I was a kid, and I had an older brother. And
Let's go.
that is I think he was in 7th grade, so I was first, 2nd grade, and he's like, we just started playing. I had 2 cousins in the middle, and so we had a ready-made team.
Oh man, the cousin crew showed up to do it.
Yeah.
Who was the DM?
My brother was the oldest, and then it was like 2 years. Everyone else was 2 years apart. So I was the youngest who, there was no role playing involved, right? It was
Right.
it was role playing with dice. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you remember your character?
Not that early, but when I got to 7th grade, I had this rogue named Drank O'Duels.
Oh boy.
And my mom found that, and that was interesting to discuss.
Explain. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be like, oh, it's not alcoholic.
Exactly.
There it was. The answer's right there for you. That's awesome. And have you ever played games with your brother since? Now that you've it's carried on into adulthood, have you all ever rekindled it?
No, not really. I have all of his stuff, and he just kind of like is out of it. But my nieces are involved now.
Oh,
so my
let's
nieces
go.
play.
Let's
Nice.
go.
Them being able to be like, hey, check out this thing that I'm doing, and that's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So you've ran for them, or they're just interested?
They're just interested. They do
Okay.
their own games. They have
Okay.
their own crew.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't want to be that like heavy-handed DM. Like no, I'll encourage us any way I can, but you go.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, Andrew, who is one of the hosts of the show, has DM'd for his child a bunch, and his kid has now reached the age where it's like they're a little too cool for it, which has been funny. So like since we started the show, it's kind of like that progression has happened. So you love to see it. But that's awesome. It's so cool. A thing that we've come across on the show is how many people have come to it differently. And I love hearing about the folks who've been doing it since they were a kid, because I picked it up as an adult with 5e, and then Andrew has talked about really wanting to have done it when he was a kid. But so it's always kind of like you feel like the OG. You're like, oh, we get to talk to one of those that have done it since they were a kid. So that's awesome. And so what are you running right now? Because you do have Quests and Chaos, this channel where you run games and playing games. What are you running over there right now?
So we've got a lot of games that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Our typical week is we stream 3 days a week. So we have a Monday night show, a Tuesday night show, and a Saturday night show.
Nice.
All RPGs. I DM Tuesdays, which is Chaos Agents. And that is our first season started with Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and then moved into Homebrew after that. In the second season, I came up with a murder mystery campaign. And it didn't even survive a session 0 before it was off the rails, because the players created these characters that were so outgoing and so memorable and everything, that there was no way that they could like be on the sly trying to solve a murder mystery. They were so kind of like adjusted everything, and they ended up being like the distraction, while other people did other things.
Oh yeah, okay.
And the players went off the rails. Like, I mean, it went off the rails into adult content, and it's been going there ever since. So.
Well, I mean, you put chaos in your title, and it's like you've conjured that effect yourself.
What are you asking for, really?
That's awesome. And is that like, I as a DM, I always find it incredibly fun when it goes off the rails. Like I'm just I remember the first couple of scary times, and ever since then, I've just been like looking for it to immediately go off the rails. Are you the same way, or is it like? Or, do you have trouble like surfing the wave of players like unraveling this thing that you've created?
I would much rather have the players take it where they want to take it, and be able to, call an audible and really change and go with it. I had elements and PCs and, this one character who ran a card, like a gambling hall.
Mm-hmm.
He was, potentially one of the murderers. And one of the characters is like, I want to go to a brothel. We got to go to a brothel. And well, there's this gambling hall, and they've got, they've got a dance floor, and then it ended up being, exotic dancers on one side, gambling hall on the other, and then the PCs are like, well, we want to dance and make money. So that's where that went, where they then built up this whole like thing that they're gonna. They named their group the Full Pickle. And that's what happened. So
they took over that club, and they're running it now. Kind of like they've become the baddies a little. And I like that. Yeah, that's super fun. And then is that in your player? And that's a different game as well.
So yeah, and then we also just started the brand new starter set that is Stormwreck Isle, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. We grabbed that, and we're filling in for our Cthulhu show on Saturdays. That GM was out for 2 weeks, so we decided, hey, let's just put together another game, and I decided to play GIF Paladin.
Let's go, like the Hippo Man, yeah. Okay, cool, yeah.
It's that table is crazy fun.
Yeah, I mean, anytime. I honestly, GIF are like just truly. I feel like they lend themselves to brash, but fun gameplay, just by any description of them that I've come across. So we're big fans, being a Spelljammer channel. So
absolutely.
And so you mentioned Call of Cthulhu. I know Jason is a true aficionado of all things big and small in the TTRPG world of different styles of games. Are there any other games that you are a big fan of or have always wanted to run or play in?
So we actually played Carbon 2185, which is a 5e based cyberpunk system by Dragon Turtle Games, and that was a lot of fun. It had a lot of. I mean, it was really you could tell what was pulled directly from D&D, like. Yeah. Like the hacker has a ping echo, which is basically just magic missile.
Sure.
So it's like it's an auto hit, and it's you roll 3d4s, and it's a d4 plus 1. So.
That's nice, but so much of like in my experience, like so much of 5th edition comes from like how you're skinning the.
Oh no, Jason, we lost you there. We lost you. You're freezing up a little bit on us. But I love that. We've talked about that on here as well. I'm a big fan of the idea of encouraging players to, the mechanics of 5e are in there, but you can, like flavor wise, you can do anything you want with them. I think that Magic Missile is maybe the best example too, where it's like you can have those magic missiles look like anything that you want. Like, get wild with what they are, but they do 1d4 of damage, even if they look like giant sledgehammers. But it's still fun to do. Yeah. Okay, cool. We might have him back. Jason, we have you back? Do we lose?
Yeah.
We get you back?
Yeah.
Oh, you got.
Real professional. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah,
It's
I feel
okay.
like I just started talking, and then both of you were looking at me very seriously. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. We all know it's the ISP issues that just is the true dark magic of our reality. So,
Sure.
well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of reskinning 5e any chance you get. It's I think it gets people say, which I'm a fan of. I agree with the idea of like there are different TTRPGs that lets you tell different types of stories. I'm a big fan of Tin Candles. I don't know if you know that game, but it's like it lets you tell a very specific type of game and or type of story through the game. But I think that like you can do that if you want a rough and tumble crew, if you want to like go kick some doors in, but you want it to be in a city, or you want it to be in a reality like ours. You just have to do the work a little bit of changing those adjectives. But when players get rolling on it, I think it's super fun. Yeah, that's cool.
How long have you been playing Spelljammer?
Oh, we've been playing since 2020, May of 2020. So our game got started because it was 4 comedians who were all out performing, and we were already playing a little bit of D&D with some of us, and then the shutdown happened, and we were like, well, they were like, we have some space, we have some time to do some stuff, so we started doing it there. So this has been a big week for us with the Spelljammer book coming out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And have you just been like pulling stuff from other editions, or how have you been making that work?
How long you got? But it's primarily at the beginning of our game, I went back through all the 2E stuff, and I just made X amount of rules, that were like, this is how these things work. There are some really good resources online for people who have fleshed out everything, but I really wanted to do it kind of a specific way. I don't know, not even like that complicated, more of just like these are the few things I want us to focus on. Besides that, let's just play D&D with chips. So
yeah, you're always very careful to say Spelljammer inspired.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Yeah, I mean, I think that because it is a lot of it's specifically because of what you're talking about. Like, I love games that I always say I'm a big fan of Portals and Planets more than I am of Dungeons and Dragons. Because I love when the idea that magic is real, we can just do anything. Like, let's go anywhere. Let's talk to these creatures. Let's look at all these different worlds. Yeah, I mean, have you run
boats?
Yeah, flying boats, exactly. Have you run into that at all, Thomas? Like with just in DMing, finding a moment where it's like, well, the rules don't quite cover this, but it seems like our players or I want to do this, and we want to go to this place, so I'm just going to roll with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming up with rules for things that are ridiculous, is a lot of fun.
Yeah, like what? Like what's one that you all have done?
This is an adult channel, right?
Oh yeah, we can talk about adult content. Absolutely. Go for it.
So with the whole going to the strip club and performing and all of this, coming up with a mechanic to figure out, stat size for certain things. So, some players at the table wanted to roll a d20, and others, and I was like, you know what? Let's find something where the average is out. Coming up with a mechanic of 3d4. You might have your crazy outliers for certain appendages. But,
for like, how long your tabaxi's tail is.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your
All
orc
on the same
tusks.
page.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, designing weird things like that. I'll put that on the DM's Guild and see what happens.
That's fun. Yeah.
Instant platinum.
Yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show too how much you can let the dice tell the story is the thing I like to say. Let's make that roll table. Let's all put it out there, and let's just see if we can. We'll find out what your skill set is when you fill your stat sheet here. So that's super fun. Yeah, it gets wild.
That table is the Chaos Agents, and that's what happens. We have one player who's constantly trying to push the boundaries and be like, can I do this? And then I'm like, can you read me that spell? Because I don't think it can do that. And then they read the spell and they're like, oh yeah, I guess I can.
Well, how is that for you, having a table that is like you said, Chaos Agents? Like at a normal table, it's difficult to work a chaotic player in because they're throwing everything off and maybe ruining the fun of other players. But when all of them are kind of on the same page, that none of them are even in the same book, like how does that work for you?
I think it's the players. The players at the table are able to manage that. We've two players that are the characters are really at each other and trying to one up each other, but not in a mean way. And it never gets to the point where it's just like badgering and annoying. It's the players are good enough to know when to pull back.
Sure.
And sort of change that tension into like, oh, actually that was a good job, I should have.
Sure. I mean, that's I'm a big Dimension 20 fan, and I think that's one of their true skills as a table is they will go anywhere and they will do anything, but you can tell how much the players are listening to each other and that how much it's not chaos for chaos sake. It's no, I see this truth here inside this character, so I'm going to follow this all the way to the bottom, and then you can follow it too, like you can tell the other players follow it and want to go, we're just making things up, we're going wild, so why not go wild? But you're right. I mean, that's such a good point about the difference between a player or a DM who is just kind of like where things are chaotic in the sense of like not making sense or just bouncing all over the place, but when they're willing to go anywhere and willing to say yes to like the truth of, okay, we run this club now, we own this club now, we're this is our home base, we're focusing on this thing, or however you go into it. If that's the game that you all are playing together, then that's super fun. That's the joy of it for me, at least.
Yeah, lots of trust, lots of respect, but like when you have that there and you can trusting your improv partners, right? What they know, that they have your back. So that's fun. That's really good to hear.
Absolutely. And that's it's hard enough to find a group that works together. And then it's even harder to have a group that works together online, on a stream. That's just like that's crazy. We actually did casting. So almost everyone at the table there was through a casting process.
Wow.
Cool.
And wow, that's so interesting because I feel like most games that most folks that we've talked to on here, it's a group of friends who has a table together, and then they start streaming the game the D&D they've already been playing. How I'm sure you were a DM before you were a DM on stream. Did you notice any what was the difference there for you? I'm just interested in like the contrast that you felt.
So as a DM, I actually haven't DM'd that much. Throughout most of my, life in D&D, it was making characters and reading lore and, playing in a game once a week, maybe running a one shot. And then I tried to run Horde of the Dragon Queen when that came out.
Yeah.
Got pretty far through it before half the people moved away and it kind of fell apart. But that was my first DMing experience before being on stream. So I just kind of dove in and figured it out.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I think it really teaches you. It throws you in the deep end. Like Jason, we've talked about this about how much. Yeah. We had a player, Andrew's character died in a session, and because we're this big kind of like ship crash was happening, I had the ship damage stats already set out from something, and damage happened, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not sure if the if you instant die exactly if it hits your, twice your maximum, or if it has to be 1 point over. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it has to be 1 point over. Like that's what I know in my head. Let's just keep going with that. That seems right. And I wasn't trying to fudge it for him. It just, we all kind of like agreed that made sense. And then it turns out he died. He died, his character died and should have died. And he's incorporated that since then. But that's something that like, I think I've learned from that of like, oh, there's definitely a time to slow it down. Not that that was a problem. And Andrew did a great job with it, and et cetera, et cetera. But it is such a different moment of like, we only have 20 minutes left of this stream. We have to figure this out now, or like we have to, keep moving. We can't just stop and look something up, which is, whatever. You don't need to stop and look something up in your home game either. But just that feeling of like, oh shit, I need to make a call and it's going to be a big deal either way is a lot different than like, oh, I need a second to like look up this rule.
Right. I mean, and that's what I mean. Honestly, I think what makes a great DM is the ability to make a call, and
really,
and make a judgment call, and you might be wrong, but if it, if the story works, and and then you can kind of retcon stuff if you have to. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I've not heard it said that way, but I think that's like. When you said it, it made sense to me because I'm like, exactly, yeah, that's the thing I like when I see people DM is when they're gonna say like, I joke like, don't do trigonometry with Spelljammer, but what I really mean there too is, as long as you say to the player, this seems like 15 feet, does that feel good to you? And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like let's go with that is truly the important thing for me.
Yeah, being consistent with the rules as written is so tedious, and like it can get so in the weeds. But being consistent with your table, like that's the moment where you feel like everything's clicking. Like, and like you said, the good DMs know how to do that without even like hesitating, and they keep it internally consistent. Again, for me, it all comes down to that trust, and that like we're all here to have a good time and and swing our swords at gnarly creatures. Like, like. Let's keep it fun and not get super bogged down in the books. But when it does come to like a ruling like that, just like stick to it and stick to your guns and do the same thing again next time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you think of a time when you had to do that, when you had to just like make a call on like a bigger moment? Because it happens all the time with like little stuff, but there ever been a bigger one?
I mean, honestly, one of the biggest ones that I had to do is we had a PC die, and it was. I had an NPC wizard on board their ship at the time, who wasn't 100% fleshed out. And I'm like, okay, does he have gentle repose? Is that something that is going to ruin the player's fun, or the fun of having a character death? Is it going to steal that from them?
Yeah.
And, like we... again, this is the difference between a home game and a stream. We were just about going to head into that character's final arc. Like, we're going to go and do their whole backstory in the next 30 sessions. If they're dead, is that just kind of is that weird? Is it a letdown? So yeah. I made the call that NPC wizard had gentle repose and was able to like give, not permadeath that character.
Yeah, because no player wants to feel the like bowling bumpers come up on the lanes after they've thrown the bowling ball, like, but I think that's something I agree with. I didn't even like when you said it, I was like, yeah, I do that. I couldn't have articulated that, but it's like I will make a decision by if this makes sense. Like if it makes sense that wizard, if like a super powerful wizard and you haven't flushed out its first level spells or it's like it's cantrips or whatever, they're cantrips, but you're like, yeah, of course they would. Like they're a super powerful wizard that is going into a fight. Right. They're very smart. It makes sense that they would have this. I think the players can feel that too,
I mean, sort of at that moment too, that's that wizard, I just chose his school, right? I'm like, oh, he's a necromancer, right? And
there you go,
all this stuff, and it also, there could have been a cleric on board that just healed him. But, so it still gave a character death with leaving that possibility to bring them back.
Yeah.
So we had a whole huge thing. And he went, and then he had when he was dead, he was talking to Asmodeus It's like there was this whole like deal being made about his backstory and all this weird stuff.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's I think Jason's heard me say this too, but like I'm a big believer that the fun of Dungeons and Dragons or the fun of TTRPGs is that your character makes a decision and then there's the possibility of a permanent consequence as a result of the series of decisions that they make. And often that is death. I think that's like traditionally death in D&D is like, oh, if you don't check this hallway, there's a trap, blah, blah, blah. You know, like when you're playing it when you're a teenager and there's no RP. Those decisions still feel impactful because you're like, oh, I chose this hallway instead of that hallway. But now, especially where the game is, it doesn't have to be death for there to be a permanent consequence. You know, like your character can be stuck with something else forever that the player can think of if they want to keep playing that character, and the story feels like it's more fun to go in that direction. Mm-hmm. So I think that's wise of you to say.
And then, you know, you have to adjust some things to players. You know, I was playing. We basically shoehorned Saltmarsh into that campaign for a little bit,
cool.
And one of there's like a whole maze, and in the actual text it says, you know, if a player has a PC, you know, a passive perception of 14, they see every trap. That's really boring, you know.
Yeah.
If there's no stakes or no consequence, you know. So that was one where you kind of, I don't know, you just have to adjust some things to match your players. And then
sure.
they would trigger every trap. It almost turned out too much because I'm like, okay, you know that there's traps. You should at least, you know. Roll
this raised tile on the floor? Yeah.
Sure, you didn't say, do I check for raised tiles? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fun.
Look at the ceiling.
We do have a random roll table here.
Roll table.
So we like to let we kind of getting some numbers consistently here and there and having people answer the same question, but there's still plenty on here that haven't been asked. So if you want to grab that D20 and give it a roll, that'd be great.
Let's see what happens. 11.
Okay. This I don't know if we've asked this one. I don't remember this one being asked. I like this one. Andrew just updated these, so there's some on here that are surprising even to me. What is a boss monster that you still want to run, that you haven't run before, that is kind of like cooking in your brain of, I would really like to run this as a boss monster someday, you know, and we can all pretend that it's not the next monster around the corner in the campaign that, you know, you're running currently, but
I mean, I've never run a beholder.
Oh, okay.
It just so happens that we just finished where they fell in. So the strip show was a very big success and the crowd was very raucous.
Yeah.
And the floor collapsed and two of the characters fell and hit light and there's a beholder in front of them.
Yes, let's go underground there.
Boom, yeah. They're only level 4, so you know the beholder's got some issues already. You know, it's been in some combat and it's, you know, 3 worst rays are broken.
Yeah. But maybe a sea holder, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's awesome. Yeah, I think
that rules.
It's fun to run like the legendary ones, you know, like that. I think that because you can see. I feel like anytime I've run one of those, you can see why it became something that people talked about. You know what I mean? Like even in the 5e mechanics, like a lot of the times the designers have kept the thing, you know, like the anti-magic cone of the beholder, or just like the random rays. You know, even if you take out the anti-magic cone, like it's when you're running them as a DM, they show up differently, and you're like, oh, okay. You know, like when the dragon uses his breath weapon, and you feel all the players go, "Oh fuck, I only have like."
Where was I standing?
Yeah. It's cool. I feel like it's really fun to run legendary creatures specifically for that moment of like where you use the ability and you feel why like it's a different. It's not just a stat block. You know, it does something different. So that's cool. Good luck. Are there any others, Jason? What about you? What's something you've never run?
I have never run a Juggernaut. I've always wanted to do like a Shadow of the Colossus style, like this creature, if it bumps you the wrong way while you're trying to get on it, you're just done. But if you can get up there and the creature as a dungeon almost, like that's something I've been kicking around my head a little bit.
That's good. That's good. Mine is Aboleth.
I've run an Aboleth. They're slimy.
Yeah. I know I'm such an ooze monster person, but I feel like I've never got. They're like so smart. Like their whole thing is like how much they know, and I've just never used one as like a main plot line. So it's on my list. It's not going to show up in Better Than Heroes. I have too many baddies already on the board, but someday I'll run one where the baddie's an Aboleth. Well, cool. That's fun. Let's see. Any other? I want to sneak in one more question if I could for you, Thomas. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate. I know our timing was a little off. It's just cool to get to meet other people who spend a lot of time running games and hear their unique stuff. Like I said before, we run a Spelljammer game every Monday, and it's been very fun this week with the Spelljammer release, kind of seeing the stuff that lines up with how we've been running our game and the things that they've done differently. And a big thing I'm passionate about that I like how they've done it so far and everything I looked, and I'm excited to have all these ship stat blocks, is ship combat. And you said you've run some of Saltmarsh, right? Have you run into any... have you done any ship combat? Did you run into much ship stuff in Saltmarsh, or was it primarily the dungeons of Saltmarsh?
Yeah, it was really just sort of that island temple that I ran. We did have ship-to-ship combat in our first campaign of Chaos Agents. They bought their own ship at the end of Dragon Heist.
There we go.
And I had this plan for a massive ship-to-ship combat. I even 3D printed 2 ships.
What? That's incredible.
And I'm trying to think, like, I can't pick it up right now. It's like right in front of me. So, will
you tweet a picture or something? Because I love ship models. Like I was trying to find, anyway. Yeah. Sorry, keep going. I want to see it later.
So in this ship was full of GIF. Like it was and they had and it was massive. Way bigger than the PC's ship, and and the way it worked out is like they came up on each other and it was about to be this massive battle, and our light cleric, I described the ports opening up and the cannons kind of coming out, and the light cleric who is an elf, has dark vision, they were close and like, can I see inside? Like, oh, yeah. It's like, I cast a fireball in there.
Oh, man.
And I was like, they probably have gunpowder in there. They've got stores. Yeah. And that combat ended with that. Like that, she hit she hit a fireball, right inside the gun port and just blew the ship apart.
Yeah.
A lot of the damage that then happened was, cannons and everything flying through their ship and destroying a lot of stuff. Same
thing happened in our game. The first big ship versus ship fight we did, that's how Andrew's character almost died. As his character jumped on the other one and dropped. He was like, I want to drop the anchor, and he so that it just falls. And so it's funny how there's all this like specific rules about how to run ship to ship stuff, but players will be the chaos agents that they are and just.
Yeah. So the GIF character that I am playing in this new starter set is the lone GIF survivor from that ship.
Oh, with the connection, there.
So he started out. I was gonna make a vengeance paladin who was just he was out for vengeance, but we started at first level, so it's like, okay, well, he's just a paladin, and then I ended up playing him super naive and nice and lawful good, so he's not a vengeance paladin, but he's like,
it's still in his heart. It can still be in his heart. That's awesome.
He's actually kind of like, he went to this oracle, because that's sort of like the conceit of that starter set is you are all on this boat together, you're going to an oracle to find something out, and his was, I need to know what ship blew that up.
Man, that's super cool. I love the crossover. I love that stuff so much. Well, cool. That game's happening right now, right? People can go watch it.
It's on YouTube
It's
now.
on YouTube?
Awesome.
We did 3 sessions. We're gonna pick it up again. So it filled in for other shows, so we're gonna kind of pick it up
Cool.
wherever we can.
All right. Well, yeah, you can go right now if you're watching this on on YouTube Labor, on Twitch now. You can go check out Thomas's GIF there. The vengeance, and you can see the vengeance in that GIF's heart. And so yeah, go check that out. And then you're DMing as well. And which night do you DM? I'm sorry, you said it earlier, but
Tuesday nights, 7
you're
p.m.
on
Pacific.
Tuesday nights. Yeah. Okay. Cool. But you have other DMs on your channel and games that folks can check out there. So give Quest and Chaos a follow. You can follow them on Twitter, which we've linked below in our, if you're watching this on YouTube, in the description right there, and on our Twitter as well. And check out their shows on Twitch. Give them a follow over there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to plug anything else there, Thomas?
I do, but I kind of need to get up and go grab it.
Do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Take your time. Look at your setup is immaculate. Look at Thomas's setup. I'm thoroughly impressed. I can't wait to see the ship later. I mean, Jason, you've seen me spam the chats a little bit about like before we did the one live show that we did. I almost bought the like Wizards of the Coast big ship, and I'm glad there it is. There it is. There it is.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. The jealousy I feel in my heart is sinful.
All right.
That is
Look at that thing.
that is
It was
incredible.
like, there's actually a level missing between the two, but this took months to print.
I bet.
Oh my gosh.
I've printed minis, and that alone is so much work. So that's incredible. That's so impressive. And the players just blew it up immediately, huh?
Exactly. And it was like, oh well, we're done. That's okay.
Yeah. Love it.
So one of the things that we do have, we've got a set of card decks that are coming out.
Whoa.
So it's called the
That's
Deck
awesome.
of Inspiration.
Incredible.
The files have just been sent to the printer in China, and so this is basically, it replaces the inspiration mechanic in 5e.
That's
So
awesome.
instead of, so if the players do something you like, they role play their characters well, or
Take notes.
They
Yeah.
take notes, bring snacks, or pay attention. You can, reward them with a random one-time use boon.
Ooh.
Oh,
Right.
so they're more
So-
specific than just yeah.
So I just kind of randomly drew this one. It's called Boosted Regen. So this is regeneration. When consumed, this potion heals 1d6 hit points. At the start of every turn, you heal another 1d6 hit
Whoa,
points
that's a
for
big
1
one.
minute. Yeah, that's actually kind of the big one. And then we have, others that sort of, it gives you a temporary spell slot.
Yeah.
So, if you're out of spell slots, you can play the card and you get, a temporary first or second level spell slot.
I love that because that's such a narrative moment too, where you're able to, because I love having a narrative moment that breaks the rules, but tells the story there, and that's kind of like provides for a few of those. So I mean, because how cool would it be where it's like, you remembered the NPC's name from 12 sessions ago, and you pull it out of nowhere, and the DM's like, man, because you remembered exactly that in this moment, you get the inspiration, and then 3 sessions later, you're like in the boss fight and you only have 1 spell slot left, and that downs them and saves you, and it's just because of that. It's like that's so cool. I love that.
And for me as a DM, I feel like I don't dole out inspiration when I'm DMing 5e. I forget about it, and then I'll be like, oh, that was really cool. Well, there's a mechanic for that, right? Here's an inspiration point, and then everybody forgets about it by the time that it could be useful. But having like the physical card to be like, let's deal these bad boys out and see how it goes.
Yeah, so we've got 5 total decks. We've got, levels 1 to 4, 5 to 10, 11 to 16, and then the epic level deck.
They scale? That's incredible.
Yeah.
This is.
And
I'm
then-
gonna get these. This is so cool.
I'll send. So we printed off some playtest decks that we've been using. So I'll send off a couple of these decks to you. Just
Oh well, I mean,
send that info over.
well, please.
They're at the printer. They're going to be, hopefully arriving here, in 30 to 40 days.
Okay, cool. Well, if you are
We're
you
all
all
dealing with printing right now, so
Yeah, I know. Andrew's putting out Duster, and it's the same way. So if you are you going to have a link where people can buy them, or is it a Kickstarter that's already happened and is over with?
So Kickstarter happened. It was successful. We printed, way more, obviously, and we're going to get those into hopefully distribution and retail stores.
Okay, cool. Well, if
Killer.
you are watching this and you want these cards, and there are some available online at some point, we'll put the link down here so that you can buy them if you're watching this and you think this is cool too.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's all I have. Jason, you have anything else?
Nothing else from me.
All right.
Watch
Thank
Better
you.
Than Heroes.
Yeah, watch. Yeah, if you are new to this and you're checking this out for the first time, we do have a Spelljammer game that we run on every Monday at 7:00 Pacific time. That we've been running in 5e since 2020. I have to start saying that now because there's a big one out. Jason here does the art. We have a live soundtrack that he scores every week. He live scores the show, which is truly incredible. He does not get enough credit for how much work he does and how much it adds to the story to have him improvising behind you. So come hang out with us. Come, be sure and check out Quest and Chaos. And don't forget, tip your DMs, everybody. Tip your DMs. Do it. If they're running a game from your home, they do a lot of work. Venmo them $5 afterwards. It'll make their day. All right. We're going to get out of here. Have a good
Awesome.
one. Bye.
Thank you.